reviews, discussions, and theories about films in horror, sci-fi, and genre. This is the Horror Deconstruction. Like, share, and subscribe to hear more.
Boy, you can tell I am into it today. What's up, everybody? It's the Horror Deconstruction. You can find your us on Instagram, Facebook, most likely on YouTube. Give us a like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell icon with your host, Komp and
Resident D.
Recently canceled on Netflix, as well as
Thea. Is that a thing?
Yeah, they had a Resident Evil show ended, and they just canceled it because it was bad. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure that was not the biggest problem.
Today's film is
Infection, 2004, not to be confused with the 700 other movies named Infection.
Yes. Canson, 2004. That's where Dorothy came from, right? Yeah. Canson, 2004, Infection, also known as. Infection takes place in a dark, isolated hospital where one doctor's mistake has led to dire consequences for a patient.
Is directed that the plot?
It's very scratching the surface.
Directed by Masayuki Ochiai, written by Ryoichi Kimizuka, who did the story, and Masayuki Ochiai, who did the screenplay, starring Michiko Hada, Mario Hoshino, Tei Kimura. So, why did I pick Infection?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, I thought this would be a winner. It's a movie I actually was in the first half an hour, and I still actually like the movie, but I heard the film because I was listening to a podcast called The Movies That Made Me. It's with the director of Gremlins. He hosts it with this other guy who's a writer, the guy who wrote...
was he super inspired by this movie?
No. Who did an adaptation of the film A History of Violence, which is a cool movie you should watch, which is a Cronenberg movie. Anyway, so they had on the actor Dana Gould, and he brought this movie up, Infection, and I was like, okay. So then I was just like, kind of went on with my life, and I heard about the movie again for some reason. A whole bunch of people just bringing up this movie, and I was like, okay, so let me just give this a look, because it's an obscure movie. It's Japanese. See, it's old school for the time, I guess, 2004. God, is like almost.
It's about disease, which is always.
Somebody do the math. That's what, 50 years ago, 2004.
Yeah,
feels like that.
70.
It has a bomb-ass poster. Which doesn't happen in the movie, but it still looks cool. Mm-hmm. So I was like, let me go check out this movie, and I was like a half an hour into this movie, and it was I thought it had a genuinely and general spooky, ooky feeling to it.
Mm-hmm. That I would agree with.
And I was like, Thea, Danny, watch this movie, and then it all fell apart.
Would you
after
agree it had a general spooky, ooky feeling to it?
I agree. Yeah, the atmosphere was very effective.
Very
I think it's
atmospheric, as they say.
It's essentially like I don't know if you guys have ever played it or ever heard of it. There's a game called Silent Hill, which is about a guy who's trying to find his wife and daughter, or wife and child. It is a daughter, and he drives up to this town because she's disappeared, and he rolls through this fog. And when you enter the fog, there's this town that seems to be
is it like one of those
isolated.
Like shoot 'em things that they had at the arcade?
It's like a Resident Evil game. It's like one of those.
But you have like a gun and you're shooting them.
Yeah. But it's not first. It's not
it's
first
more
person.
puzzly though, and a bit, right? Yeah.
And it's really nightmarish kind of Lovecraft characters, as opposed to just sort of standard zombies. And they made a film of it too, which was sort of good and sort of not good at the same time. But my favorite aspect of watching Silent Hill, the film, is I was at the top part of a movie theater watching it, and I was in this. People started arguing downstairs in the bottom level of the film, and it was very clearly a woman and several gay men that were arguing with each other, and the sass in that argument was fantastic.
Oh my god! I wish you had a recording.
I wish I did too. It was better than the film itself.
Get loud in movies.
And it was one of those. I could tell she was Latina because growing up with Latino people, she was like she had that same sort of. Jaws, like when you're scared of Jaws, you just know he's out there and you just know he's deadly no matter what. So she kept her arguing very monotone. And she goes, I know you are not going to. And it was like that sort of thing. It was, she's going to cut him anyway. Just to hear, and then just to hear the gay guys snapping back at it was an incredible feat. And I wish I had seen it. I wish I had sat down there with them instead and watched that.
Honestly, that was the movie you had to see.
Yeah.
Back to this film, Infection. So it's about two. There's two main doctors. There's a main doctor who is played by Koichi Sato. He's playing Dr. Akiba. And then there's a secondary doctor. I believe his name is... Is that Azumi?
Yeah.
No, Kishida's the other guy, isn't it?
What?
Huh?
No, there's Kushida, there's Akiba, and the evil doctor Akai, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's 3 doctors. This hospital looks like it's right out of a fucking nightmare.
There's like a main nurse who's like new and doesn't know what she's doing, and then a mean nurse.
There's the fine nurse with my usual predilection towards evil
people.
women. I just love evil women. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to be sexist. I just like people that are evil.
Like
it's just
it.
my thing. Who doesn't like danger? Come on. Even Charles Manson got laid. So Yoko Mai also plays is the nice nurse, right? And then there's the mean nurse, and then there's the head nurse that's there. So it's about
There's
three
also
people.
there's another nurse too, because I kept getting them two.
Was I confused about that? Because there was one nurse that comes out of a room and she looks like she just had sex with somebody or something, and I was
Who's
confused
the nurse
by
that's
it.
like practicing needles?
Yeah, there's one that doesn't know what she's doing. She keeps practicing needles, and then there's the one that is
the male nurse.
person that actually does the wrong dosage.
Yeah.
I confused them a lot.
Though. He did say
I know,
name of the medicine.
Danny went back.
He's
and
in the
looked that
weeds.
up.
No, I did look back. I was like, I know this guy's lying, and I rewound it, and
He did. Yeah, he
lied.
did. He said it wrong.
And I really sincerely do not think this is some sort of face racism thing in this film. Everybody looks very different from each other.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a part with one nurse, a female nurse, who I didn't recognize her from the other 3 nurses, because all the nurses in this film are very distinct. There's like the older woman.
Yeah.
There's the youngest one who's like very skittish, and she's the one that I guess quote unquote fucked up the she fucked up the delivery of some medicine, chloride, right?
Like that,
And then there's the one that looks like she's like the hot evil nurse. And then there seems to be a 4th woman, but I might be wrong, because there was a woman who comes out of a door and later on in the film.
Personally,
There's a woman that comes out of a door and she looks like she's just had sex with somebody or something.
So not only racist,
she had one of those. She had a
all
post
women
glow. Oh
sleep around.
Jesus.
Oh,
Anyway, whatever. So there's 3 female nurses. I'm gonna say that. I thought there was 4, but I guess
there's
there's 3.
4 nurses, including the head
But I mean the
nurse.
male nurse, right? The male nurse that's doing the stitching throughout the film.
No, there's a 4th. What I'm saying is
so
there's a 4th female nurse. That's why
Who's
it's
on
very
first?
confusing.
In any
Okay,
case,
so there are 4
this
nurses.
movie is very convoluted.
It is.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a
Why
lot
don't we
of
just get
characters
into
to
what the
track.
film is about? So there's this hospital that is falling apart. It does not have enough equipment. It does not have enough supplies. I guess not enough people must go to this hospital
And I
because
don't really
it is not.
get what the intensity is about, because it seems like they don't realize there's this green ooze infection at first, but like everyone's so intense. At one point, he's freaking out when they try to bring
I can
a new
imagine,
person.
but I can imagine
Well,
if
they're
you're just
intense
in a,
because they just killed somebody.
No, but even before that, they were intense.
I think what happened is that they know that the hospital's failing, and they're basically talking to each other, saying, "We got to fucking have to bust these people off to another hospital because this hospital's not going to work." So when you're hearing that, and then you just hear somebody's infected, you don't even think about it. I think because, like, I have family that's in the hospital, and you can imagine the shit that they see. So these doctors are basically scrambling, and basically their lives are falling apart. I don't even think I'm trying to figure out this hospital where it's at because there's no sort of specific indication of where it is. It doesn't seem like it's in the right. It must not be in. It must be in the boonies or somewhere. I assume this is like a derelict hospital in real life that's sort of used for in Japan.
There was
they
this
make,
terrible
like, the best
movie we watched, and there was a point where it was like 3 stories that were in hell or something, and like one of them was in a hospital, and somebody kept calling and talking them through a surgery.
Oh yes, I remember that movie. The one where the guy had to fix up the woman
or something like that.
Yeah, Southbound. That horrible movie. That was the only good section out of it.
That particular one. It reminded me of this a little bit.
This looks like one of those Japanese. In Japan, they make how Universal Horror Nights. They have really good sort of haunted house attractions. They actually convert actual old hospitals into horror hospitals for like a year long. So that's what I think this building actually is. But you see, there are sections where you see a lot of people waiting in the waiting room, but you never see those people ever again outside of that room.
No.
So this movie has everything. It has fucking zombification.
But how do we know those people are real? Because a lot of shit in here might not be real.
Yeah, you might be right about that.
Like, Thea, did you get that feeling that it was real or what? Like, I'm so confused.
I guess a lot of it was hallucination based on like the things that happened right at the end.
Right.
But
I think
I don't
once
know who
that-
the source was.
I genuinely don't understand. I tried so hard to understand. Like, I usually don't have this much trouble, but, like, it was very confusing. I'm not sure what this movie was about at all.
Yeah, I think, because, I really don't know how to explain what happens in this film other than these doctors are facing a crisis where it's going to be shut down, and on that same night when they have to, do the final call of putting these people in. I would think a hospital is like 24/7, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, Thea, we saw the movie Infection, and we talked about that in a future episode that's coming up.
Right.
And there's like a hospital that's just closed up at
Wait,
night when
this
there's
is
like a children's
Infection.
hospital. No, I'm sorry, not Infection. What was the movie that we saw about the girl who was possessed by the ghost?
What was it called? Incantation.
Incantation. That's why I said that. And that had a hospital that was closing up, and I was like, there's got to be 24/7 like hospitals in Asia somewhere,
there
right?
are,
Like,
like-
I know.
that's
I
it.
was like, where do people
towns
go?
I mean, there's only a few thousand people. Like, how many doctors
Yeah.
are there?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So with this failing hospital, each doctor, there's sort of the clean-cut Dr. Akiba, who's like the handsome sort of soap opera guy. He is like, he's the one that ultimately makes the fuck up by asking for the wrong medicine for this guy who they've had, who's like almost near comatose because he got burnt in a fire, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy is completely wrapped up. He looks like fucking Frankenstein before he wakes up. There's this other guy who's the more meek doctor. I think that's Dr. Kishida. He's like, at the beginning, he's calling to send money to
That's
his
Uzumi.
wife for his child. Was that Izumi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, who's Dr. Kishida then?
I think he's one of the ones that's
Maruka.
he's asleep in the room, I think.
I thought that was Dr. Akai.
The only
Dr.
ones that
Akai.
are important are Akiba, Uzumi, and Akai.
I guess we are
Yeah.
racist. This is a racist podcast.
No, it's like there's a million characters, and they're
So
all
many characters.
they're all
There's a lot
blurring
of
around,
characters.
and the plot makes no sense.
And I think it's like some of the confusion feels intentional, and then some of it just feels like
Yeah.
they didn't totally think it through.
I think
I
there's
think
this
it's
weird.
like they started writing a different script at one point in the middle of the script, maybe.
There's this weird Lynchian Japanese feel to it. Not Lynchian as it's being art housey, just that it's being specifically obtuse and strange and weird.
Yep.
And I think it achieves that in a good way. That it's a very, to me, I was disturbed by a lot of the stuff in the movie itself,
Yeah.
like camera
Yeah.
angles and shit. Like to me, the part that when I actually like texted you guys to watch it, it was like, there's like a focus on two swings, and the swing just sort of moving by itself.
Yeah, what was the
And
deal
I don't know.
with that?
For me, I don't know. For me, that was so fucking ominous and so unsettling for some reason because it has nothing to do with the film. I think it's just showing that there's something happening at this place. There's ghosts here or something because we
Right.
do actually see a ghost later. Physically, we see a ghost. But I thought that was so fucking disturbing. And there's a part where Dr. Akai, right after Akai's like, listen, we got to study this guy who's coming fucking melting and falling apart. And
He
there's
seems
a part
like a
where,
real villain. He's like, if this was a video game, he would be like the final boss guy or something.
right, but when the two doctors are sort of like negotiating with each other, like, should we do this? We shouldn't. And he like appears like talking to them, but he's appearing like halfway in the hallway, like
Yeah. In the
like
doorway.
in the doorway, so his face is halfway cut off.
Yeah.
And to me, it was so unusual looking that it really chilled me for some reason, because it was very disturbing to me. And I don't really get like disturbed by horror movies anymore because they just kind of all seem to be going with the Blumhouse effect kind of thing.
Right.
Also,
And I
that
thought-
I mean, Blumhouse is good though.
I didn't say it's horrible. I just said it like I've seen everything in the
There's
Blumhouse
like a
movies, so.
sort of a brush that like they all feel they're painted with. It's,
yeah.
like,
Yeah, I
they
know
sort
what
of
you
feel
mean.
have a samey feel.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So it was little things like that, like the way that the bandaged guy was, or the part where the lady was underneath the the plastic sheeting after she's been
Although I've always said
basically
Blumhouse.
melting, and she pops her finger through it. The old lady, the mother.
The old lady, I was gonna say, like, she doesn't seem to have any importance, but she's creepy as fuck.
She's just unsettling
She's
the
the-
whole time.
yeah,
And I
she's
guess it's,
very
I guess it's also
unpleasant.
that she sees Akai too later.
She's there to introduce the whole looking in the mirror thing. And there's even weird shit with the mirror stuff. Like the first time I saw it, I was like, wait, what did I just see? There was a part where the skittish nurse, the young nurse,
Yeah.
is running up the staircase, and she runs into the mirror, but her reflection runs off in the other direction. And I was like,
Right.
what the fuck? Like, so stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that, like, It's like a very unsettling, weird movie. Like it'll obviously confuse the shit out of you because there's some sort of weird twist ending
Maybe
to
we're
it.
all stupid, but I feel like of all of us, I feel like Thea would be the smart one, and like she didn't understand it either.
Yeah,
It's still pretty confusing. Like they tried to do the like twist where it's like, it's a subconscious thing, so it's just changing
an
what
infection
you're
of the mind.
perceiving. Basically, it's not actually like a goo monster.
Right.
It's like there's a subconscious infection that's
It
going
makes you
through
like
the entire...
that old lady who's crazy and talking. To
Kind
herself.
of, yeah.
So yeah, this feels like it's sort of a bigger budget sort of television horror movie to me because I think this guy did a couple of TV horror specials before in Japan where it's sort of like ghost stories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And sort of brought it up to here. So and it does have a mostly like television level quality of like production.
Yeah, it's
but
all
it
like
looks like
contained
film.
in one location. You don't
Right.
ever, like see anything else really.
And the camera movement and stuff, and like even the reveal of the burn victim guy, and you see his mother coming to visit, and the nurse sees the reflection of the mother has no fucking like body to it,
Yeah.
just the clothing. Like that, there's shit in here where I was just like, oh boy, like if I saw this shit, I would get the fuck out of here.
It's cool
Yeah.
stuff.
And then, like,
yeah.
It is. It's really cool stuff. It's cool for the fact from the era that it's from, like 2000s
Like,
Japan
did it-
horror is great.
It did happen, right?
I think. I think
there,
it did
there
happen
is
just for
a
the.
disease that makes you turn into green goo.
I think there's an infection, but I don't think the goo exists because
But then at the
Well,
end,
because-
that lady, the doctor lady, sees the red lights turn green.
she's infected by the
So she's
doctor.
going crazy. It's not
Yeah.
real. Okay.
Basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there is an explanation of why apples are always red.
So it's like
because it's part of
a
the mind.
virus that, in addition to killing you and maybe making you go crazy and kill other people, you will also see red as green.
You might just be having a hallucination and not actually killing
Yeah.
people.
But people did die, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So did Dr.
but it's
Akiba kill them?
unclear. Yeah, I think the supposition is that like probably Akiba killed most of them.
Right.
okay.
That was what it seemed like to me. But
And
that
he got the
but
disease from
who
the
knows?
scabby guy that was brought into the hospital.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I did enjoy the fact where they first bring in this infected guy. Although the guy who was the ambulance driver said they didn't bring anybody in the first place.
Right, which
Well,
is
he
why
threatened
that's
them.
when I got confused.
I think he wasn't supposed to, but then I feel like they did because the ambulance guy basically threatened him and said, if he dies, it's your fault.
But,
Yeah, but
and
later
the
on in the
ambulance
night, he
guy
says he
could have been
didn't.
lying, I guess, too. Like he could have just been like, "Oh,
Could
he
be.
wouldn't take the patient."
Yeah, but even that was like ominous because they're standing there with the body, and then as the camera like shows them in a far away, you just see them in this fog, and you only see their forms. So it's a real it's a real fucking weirdo movie.
I didn't
Yeah.
understand the end. Also, there's a hand in the locker. She was hallucinating.
So that was Akiba's hand, which I had
How
to.
do you-
I didn't know until I read after. It's because his watch is the same.
Okay.
Okay.
But why?
I don't know why.
People who are listening to this episode who actually try to understand like why they should see this movie are probably having the worst time ever.
Well,
Look, here's the thing.
because
it's
this is-
cool to look at, and if you don't go in with much necessity for substance, you're fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, this
yeah,
is
okay,
literally
that's fair. I
us.
would say
Yeah.
that.
This is the first time the three of us are talking about it, so naturally we're gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
And
did
I
we
watched it
see?"
like a week
And
ago
we're-
also, so it's not...
Right,
I
and
just
we're-
watched it.
The moment I finished it, I was like, what the fuck did I just see? Like,
So we're very confused at the
Yeah.
moment. I think we're confused about our feelings about what we saw because
but I don't
the
think
ending is
that...
such a curveball.
I mean, in general, we seem to know what we're watching when we watch movies.
Correct.
right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
think
and
so.
this director ended up working on the remake of Shudder for the American remake of a really good a film that I forget what country the original
Was it a
from.
film? Wow.
Shudder. Anyway, that's very funny, Denny. So yeah, that was his only sort of expat American film, and with this, I think the positive aspects of it is the mood of the whole film is throughout. It never sort of lets up. It's always this sort of unrelenting, like
It kind
dark.
of felt like Twilight Zone or something. Sort
Yeah.
of feeling.
Yeah, like a gory Twilight Zone. I like the fact that they didn't show the super infected guy. You just only sort of saw it and
Yeah.
through like shadows or through this plastic veil. and I appreciated that was kept because everything also like maybe.
And
Just
then we find out that the
it.
burn victim was actually Dr. Akai, who was like the one that wanted to study the dead body. So like maybe Dr. Akai wasn't ever a doctor at all.
No, they might have all just been, or even if he was, they were. It seemed like they were all sharing a psychosis of seeing him.
Right.
I gotta wonder how long that guy was practicing his stitching because he was there. It was like 20 hours. Was he actually doing it? I don't know. What did you guys? Obviously, the storyline is the worst aspect for you guys. So what were things that didn't work for you in general? Like just didn't work for you as a movie?
Thea.
Was it effects? Was it acting?
I think the effects were good. I think the acting was pretty good across the board. I think it's really successful in tone and atmosphere and less successful in obviously the story. Like it just isn't that clear, and I guess part of that is intentional, but then I really didn't understand it at the end, which I feel like you should.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would agree. I would
completely-
100% agree with Thea.
I like the ominous mood of the film. I like that it's a half-empty hospital. I mean, there's nobody in these beds. Like
I know.
There's only that one rock and roll guy, or the techno guy. I don't know what he was listening to, who comes in sick as well as the whoever the super infected guy was, and he.
And then I'm like,
vanishes.
maybe he was the infection.
Right. So maybe he was the one that gave them the initial sort of.
I mean, like
thing.
that
Yeah.
nurse clinging on the ceiling was a cool scene.
Yeah, that was cool.
But I guess it wasn't real. It was a hallucination or something.
There is just like, and the thing is, like, we're all sort of slightly shitting on this movie because of the writing at the end.
I mean,
because
if
it's
you're
trying to
not
give
like,
you a
I've
gotcha.
watched plenty of art house movies where I don't really know what's happening, but it's fun to watch. Like,
Yeah.
And I would say this is
In
not
that
quite
category.
good enough to be at that level, but it's good enough to watch. Like, it's just not like it's the story makes no sense, but it's also not amazingly well done that it doesn't matter if the story makes no sense. Like, it would have been better if the story made some sense.
I think this is a film that fulfills an aesthetic need that has been missing from movies for a long time, especially from American films. Or this is like sort of a Japanese.
It also feels a lot
very
older
Japanese
than it
horror
is.
film. Yeah, it does, and I think it fits the certain look and the certain mood. And I think the acting is not over the top. Well, I don't think it's over the top. I thought it was pretty perfect. It's nothing is bombastic. It's all this subtle and sort of. I'm just looking at the
like
video
that
of
word,
the guy, the
bombastic.
green hand falling out of the locker. It is a very incredibly strange movie that I actually recommend. I don't think people will be happy with the ending, or if they are, they would just be like confused by it. But I don't think they'd be offended by
If
the
you
ending.
go
because,
in expecting it to not make sense, I think you'll be fine.
yeah, I think what happens with this movie, where it kind of goes off the rails, is because they like the last 15 minutes they just did not know what to do with it. And I think it was pretty successful as a movie, just making you have this weird feeling of doom throughout it. Like, something bad's going to happen because the whole premise is somebody's infected, is being brought into this hospital. That's going to cause some sort of mass disruption. But that's never really the focus. Like, obviously people get infected here and there, but there's just so much other weird shit going on in the movie, like ghosts and like guys stitching up plastic skin and a woman
Even that
eating,
lady that
like,
kept
flesh.
getting needles was like very disturbing to me.
Yeah,
There's a lot in
it's-
this movie that's disturbing, in
Yeah, it
all
seems
kinds
like-
of different ways.
Yeah, it's just it seems to be a mix of a whole bunch of like Japanese taboo horror that's brought in here, like cannibalism. Although I don't think that lady was eating actual skin. I think she was eating the fake skin.
Right.
So it's like weird shit like that. And I think that works as a whole, as a storyline towards the end where they try to give you a gotcha because there's no clear ending to it. That's where they fuck up. But I don't think you could have a clear ending to this film because usually an infection movie means the whole world is infected, and that's how it usually ends.
Right.
And this movie
Well,
doesn't
I
seem
mean,
to have that ending.
I'm assuming that the ambulance workers got it.
Yeah, it could be, but they were normal when they were interviewing them, so I
Yeah,
guess
but
they
it took
didn't.
a while, maybe, because it goes in your subconscious. So maybe they're gonna go home and like infect their families, and who knows.
Could be.
So what we're saying is the writer fucked up. That's what we're saying at the end of the movie. It's fucked up. Yeah, you guys have anything else to say about this movie? Infection 2004.
No.
Not really.
So, Danny, what rating would you give Infection 2004, also known as Canson?
I will give this a 6 out of 10. Practicing your needling all day long, all night long, and then stabbing yourself with the needle so hard that green goo splats your mean nurse boss's face.
Thea, what rating would you give Infection/Cancer in 2004?
I'm going to give it 6.3 out of 10. A kid that wears a weird mask that's never explained, never speaks, and is probably scarred for the rest of his life.
I believe that is a mask
I
of a
forgot
fox.
about that kid.
That is a mask of a fox, which I believe foxes are usually treated as animals that are untrustworthy, or they're trying to get the upper hand in Japan. So do with that what you will. I would give this movie about 7.5 out of 10. Having people spew green shit all over you, and the best treatment is to cover them with some sort of saran wrap and put them into a bed.
Yeah, that's true.
And also, none of you wore masks the whole time.
Oh yeah, nobody it was funny to see them not wear masks in this movie. They just sort of held it up to their faces as opposed to putting it over their ears, and I was just like, this is the worst hospital I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys probably should be put out of business.
Imagine, like, if I lived in this area and I got sick, I'd drive an hour further.
I would just die.
Fly back to the U.S.
Yeah, I'd like get on a plane and fly back just to not have to deal with that hospital.
Oh, God.
So with that, Thea, what is the final word?
Pen.
Danny, what's the final word?
Dr. Akiba.